What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to GearBocks. So today we have got quite an episode for you, and probably, if I had to guess, a little bit of an unexpected episode compared to, let's call it, popular belief within the car industry. I have an Easter egg in this right now, so leave your comments down below if you have a guess on what today's topic is. But regardless, now that everyone has put in their guesses, really, you know, as you guys know from the title, thumbnail, whatever, if you recall, I mean, there are plenty of videos that have gone over this and been discussed and whatnot. Air suspension is great. Air suspension serves a purpose. But I'm not the biggest fan, guys. It's something that I'm not going to call it a gimmick. It definitely serves a certain purpose and, you know, talks to a certain group of people, let's call it. But as a kid and growing up in the car community and Fast and Furious and whatever, you know, I've seen so many social media posts, even, you know, pre-YouTube and catalogs, forums, blah, 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 blah. And I've always been the type of person to say, I'm going to own a car that's on air suspension. And that's great, but what I'm going to tell you here today is why air suspension maybe is not the best thing for daily driving. And I know this is going to offend some people and hurt, you know, break some people's hearts, but it's just the truth. So without further ado, let's just get right into it, and we'll see where it goes from here. So the first thing I want to talk about as to why air suspension is just overall not the best choice for daily drivers. One is going to be the air compressor noise, and just the overall kind of comfortability, I guess, that air suspension allows or does not allow you and your passengers. So if you recall back to the intro, I said that there was a Easter egg there. The Easter egg was how freaking loud that damn compressor was. And here's the thing. In order to have compressed air to put into your air struts, you need compressed air. I understand that. It's a necessary evil. I also understand that you can have one compressor, you can have two compressors, you can theoretically have as many compressors as you want to get more compressed air into the tank in a shorter amount of time. I get that. I also understand there's tank sizes and whatever, different sizes of lines, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that can go into setting up an air compressor and an air system. But what's most annoying to me is people who aren't familiar with my car, or people who are just soft, I guess, and they get in my car and I raise it up and they say, John, what's that freaking noise? Or I'm on a business call. Daily driver, you should be able to drive it wherever you want and do whatever you want. And I have to literally schedule when I get in my car and when I call people based on the noise of the air compressor. It's just annoying. It probably isn't as loud over the mic of like my actual car as I might think, but it's still something I need to consider, and it's just something that's very annoying, and I wish that there was maybe a better way to go about it, but it is what it is. So the second thing I want to talk about today is the idea of really just air pressure in general. But with this car, so for those who don't know, I'm on the Airlift 3P airlift suspension system on true hard struts. what people don't realize, or at least what I didn't realize when I got my car on air suspension, is sure, I get in the car, I lift it up, I have my preset, because of my preset, I have my ride height. That's great. The second you put any more weight in the car, the second you start to change stuff up and maybe you lift it with more weight in the car and then you maybe lower it down with less weight in the car, it messes with the ride height. You cannot get in the car with the whole damn thing packed and hit the ride height button, your main ride height, and end up at the same physical, 2 feet off the ground from fender to ground as you would if it were just me. And that's something that I know, and I know a lot of comments are going to be, well, there's the 3P system, i.e. 3 pressure, versus the 3H system, 3H height. That's fine, I get that. I have the 3P system, and I've literally been suggested not to go to the 3H system because the height sensors tend to break. Could I do it easily? Sure. But do I want to deal with broken height sensors as I'm driving and doing road trips and stuff? No. So it's just something that I have to deal with. It's very annoying. It's, anyone gets in the car, and I get made fun of all the time. Like when I've got friends and stuff where I get in the car and I want to drive this car and show it off to them. I always have people making comments, and do I really care? No. But when it's your kind of last option and say, hey, yeah, we're driving in the WRX, hop on in, and you've got to do this fucking dancing around with your air pressures, it's just not ideal. And unless you know for a fact you are going to be the only person sitting in your car at all times, it's something to consider. It's a pain in the ass, and it really genuinely turns me off from the idea of daily driving air suspension on my WRX. The third thing I want to talk about here today, pardon my sweating ass, I have the air turned down so we can get some peak audio. Third thing I want to talk about today is the fact that air suspension tends to chew up tires quicker than it probably should. So what I mean by that is I've got, and I can't show it to you right now, but right now I know for a fact I'm chewing up tires. Right now, I've got my controller. It has 5 presets on the controller. It basically has aired out, low ride, which is like drive straight, don't turn the wheel, basic ride height, speed bump, and then fully aired up, right? Well, what's hard about air suspension is that your air suspension is aligned on a specific preset. And if you go back to my second point, when you start messing with those presets based on the amount of weight in your car or the lean or angle that the car is at when you air up, odds are you're not going to be in the alignment that you were intended to be in. For those who are unaware, with air suspension, as you go up or as you go down, let's start with as you go down. As you go down and you air out your struts, you're going to camber in and you're going to toe in. As you go up, you're going to camber out and you're going to toe out. Don't ask me the explanation for that. That's just how shit works. But camber, toe, and caster are all how you get aligned. That's why you go to an alignment shop. And if you throw that off just a little bit on one corner of the car, the rest of the car is going to be out of alignment. So right now, my Pilot Sports that I'm driving on right now, I know for a fact the life of those tires is significantly decreased because I'm on air. And I can try as much as I possibly want to, but it's just a fact. And it sucks, but it is what it is. It's a sacrifice you give for being on air, and it's just something to consider if you don't have the disposable cash or you don't have the mental capacity to say, oh shit, my tires got half the lifespan they should have gotten because I'm on air. I don't want to deal with it. That's something you need to be prepared for when you are daily driving a car on air suspension. So the fourth thing I want to talk about today here, guys, it's not really a, I guess, objective thing about air suspension. It's more of a me problem. But number 4 is going to be, I am just inherently scared of nicking an airline. So for those who maybe don't completely understand how air suspension is mounted or configured or whatever, you have a couple, key parts, right? Number 1 is going to be obviously your air struts. These struts have the ability and the shocks and whatever to operate as suspension, but they also have an airbag within them. They then have lines, i.e. air lines, running from the strut, whether it's the front corners or the back corners, running directly to your management system. The management system is that 3-piece system. It's a big black block, essentially. And that management system connects to your air tank and your air compressor to feed the air where you want it to go. Now, the thing with the lines coming from the struts to the management is that they run underneath the car. They run from the struts up to the trunk where typically your air tank is located, and it diverts the air from there. Well, the thing with airlines running under your car is you're driving on roads. You have shit on roads. It's not a racetrack, it's got rocks, it's got mulch, it's got twigs, it's got metal, it's got this, it's got that, and there's a lot of opportunity, theoretically speaking, for your wheels to kick up shit into your airlines and bust a hole in them. Well, if you bust a hole in your front left strut airline, your front left strut, I don't care what you do, you're going to be aired out on your front left strut, and that's it. And is this like a ridiculous, concern or something? Maybe, but it's very possible. I feel like it's one of those things where if you say, oh, I would never be that person, that'll never happen to me, it'll happen to you in 2 seconds. But it's just something you have to think about. If you're taking a long road trip, or you're doing this or you're doing that, and you are an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away from your home, and you bust an airline, well, unless you have DOT airlines readily available to you at that time, you're shit out of luck. Not to mention a jack and a wrench and this and that. So it's probably ridiculous. It's probably overkill. But once again, it's just something to keep in mind, that nicking an airline is a possibility and could potentially ruin your day. All I'm going to say. The last thing I want to talk about here today, guys, as it relates to your air suspension system and just why it's maybe not bad to daily drive, but just something to consider, is the maintenance. You guys know me. I'm a big maintenance guy. I'm by the book, if not earlier than the book as far as maintenance is concerned. But the thing with air suspension that I did not really understand prior to having it is there is a shit ton of more stuff to think about and consider as you're driving it consistently than there would be with IE coilovers. I think the easy one are water traps. So as you have your air tank, as you have your management and your compressor and so on and so forth, as water and air work, as water or as air condenses, water builds, there's going to be condensation within your air tank, which in turn goes through your manifold, which in turn goes through your lines, and then it goes through your struts, and then your struts are filled with water. You also have just basic coilover maintenance, essentially, with making sure your lock collars are tight, making sure your heights are good, dampening is good, top hat bolts are torqued down, and then you have the idea of, well, what if I have a leak at any part of my system, whether it's a strut, whether it's a tank, whether it's the manifold, whether it's in the middle of a line? How do I go ahead and troubleshoot that? That's something where you guys have seen me do it. You know, I'm very, very vigilant when it comes to that, but it's something that can happen in a matter of time, and you don't really know exactly when it's going to happen, nor do you know if you're going to have the right tools to fix it right there on the spot. Whereas coilovers, you know, you have your preset heights, or you know, you set your heights as you put them in. You have your dampening, you have this, you have that, and then you say, okay, I think I'm ready to install these things, and you go for it. Air suspension can be the same way, but I would not suggest operating them as the same way. There are way too many things to go wrong to where you don't want to do regular maintenance on them, and that's just not the case with coilovers. That is something that has taken me quite a while to realize and experience firsthand as essentially a daily driver on air suspension, where I didn't think that was the case at all, to be honest with you. I just figured it was a set it and forget it, screw it, you know, it's like coilovers, it just has an air tank, blah, 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 blah. But here we are. So anyway, guys, I know there's a couple different other points, you know, I could touch on. I just wanted to go over kind of my main points from my point of view here. If you have any other points or suggestions or maybe rebuttals to, you know, what I've said today, drop them in the comments down below. But either way, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of GearBocks. If you like what you see, give this video a big fat thumbs up. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know what to do. And until next time, peace.